here for you. It helps you in all you do. It helps you know you do. So tune in and now enjoy the fun. It's time for English, everyone. Studio Classroom is on the air. You can watch it everywhere. English is the way to go. So join us now, enjoy the show.
Hello friends and welcome to Studio Classroom. We're so glad you've joined us for our program today. My name is Anne-Marie.
And my name is John. Friends, today is a great day to learn something new.
It certainly is, so let's do that together. We have a very interesting lesson for you today, friends, about a new social media app. But before we talk about that, let's talk about some social media apps from the past that we might remember.
All right, do you remember one called MySpace?
I do. I personally never had a MySpace. Did you?
I didn't. It was right before Facebook
That's right.
really took off. My first social media was Facebook. Maybe it was the same for some of you of a similar generation. But social media, I feel like there is a new app every year, definitely. But every month there's a new app.
Yeah, my first social media that I used too was Facebook. I used it a lot in college. I don't use Facebook anymore. But I do remember too, growing up, a lot of my friends had AIM, where you could chat with other people in real time. And that was kind of a new idea because not everyone had cell phones then. So texting really wasn't a thing yet. So being able to chat live with your friends on the computer was pretty exciting.
That's right. And you know, since moving to Asia, there are also many different apps that people use. Apps are such a big market.
Definitely. All right, well, what's the app we are talking about today, friends? Airchat. Have you heard of this app? Don't worry if you haven't. We're going to learn all about it today, starting with our first reading.
Airchat. Is this the next big thing? Or is it all just talk? Imagine a social media app where text takes a back seat and voice takes center stage. That's the experience Airchat promises. And this new take on social media is shaking things up in the tech world.
Hello everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 首先来看片语 someone's take on something， 意思是某人对某件事的意见或看法。例如 The lawyer's take on her new case was that it was going to be easy to prove her client was innocent. 这位律师对他的新案件看法是，要证明他的当事人是无辜的很容易。如果是take on something 意思是承担责任或接受工作。例如 Looking at her long to-do list, Sarah decided to take on one task a time to avoid feeling discouraged. Sarah 看着长长的待办事项清单，决定一次处理一项任务，免得气馁。或是 Inspired by her grandmother's spirit of adventure, Sophia took on the challenge of hiking through Europe. 受祖母冒险精神的启发 ，Sophia 接受了徒步穿越欧洲的挑战。
Here's the question we're trying to answer with this article, friends. Is this the next big thing, or is it all just talk? There are two phrases we need to talk about before we start the rest of our lesson here. The next big thing. What does that mean?
The next big thing is something that may become successful in the near future. It's like a future trend. So everybody wants their product to be the next big thing, right? But we don't know the future.
Exactly. It is really hard to predict what the next big thing will be. But we also see a phrase in this sentence as well, friends. If something is all just talk. What this phrase means is that it doesn't matter much because people are just exaggerating about it, and you don't really need to put much weight behind it because people aren't really going to do anything about it. They're just talking about it.
That's right. You could say, you know what, I knew a lot about basketball and I said I was good, but it was all just talk. I didn't know how to play.
Okay, so let's shift now into talking specifically about Airchat. Imagine a social media app where text takes a back seat and voice takes center stage. If something takes a back seat, what are we talking about there?
Well, this phrase means to take a less important role, to kind of get demoted. And I think it comes from driving in a car, right? There's front seat and then there's the back seat.
Exactly. So here's an example of how you could use this in a sentence. Recently, I was sick, and so everything, including work, took a back seat to my recovery. Me recovering was the most important thing, and everything else was secondary. So here what we're talking about is text, or what you read, is taking a back seat. It's not as important as voice, which is taking center stage.
Yes, center stage is useful. It comes from the theater. If someone is in the center of a stage, they're getting the focus. So voice takes center stage. And we also read, that's the experience Airchat promises. So this is Airchat's idea. And this new take on social media is shaking things up in the tech world. Okay, shaking things up means?
It means to cause large changes in something, such as an organization, and usually this is intended to make improvements.
Okay, so shaking things up. There's a phrase in the tech world, move fast and break things. Everyone's always trying to change things. Will it work? We'll find out.
That's right. So this is a new take on social media. This is something that hasn't really been done before. Or has it? I think we're going to talk about that later on in this article, friends. All right, but let's continue learning right now with our next reading.
Airchat. Airchat is an audio-focused social media platform. Instead of typing posts, users hold the record button on the app and record voice messages. The app then transcribes these messages into text so that they can be both heard and read. It's a mix between a podcast and an X, formerly Twitter, feed.
接下来看形容词 audio， 意思呢是声音的、录音的或音频的。譬如 The audio quality of the movie was very successful because of the clear sound effects that brought the action to life. 这部电影的声音品质非常棒，清晰的音效使动作栩栩如生。或是 The library had a large collection of not only books, but also audio recordings that included historical speeches and radio programs. 这间图书馆不仅有大量的书籍，还收藏了历史演讲和广播节目在内的录音资料。再看一句 The scientist conducted audio experiments analyzing how different sounds affected the behavior of animals. 这位科学家进行了音频实验，分析不同声音如何影响动物的行为。
All right, thank you so much, Jack. Friends, let's continue to learn here about Airchat. Airchat is an audio-focused social media platform. Now, let's review what this word platform means real quick here, friends. A platform is just saying it's a website or an app where some type of interaction is taking place online.
That's right. So on this platform, we read together. Instead of typing posts, users hold the record button on the app and record voice messages. Really interesting. So the normal way is you make a post. A post is a piece of writing or a photo or some kind of content that is published online. You post it up online.
And this is pretty consistent across social media apps. You can post on Facebook, you can post on Instagram. Sometimes people's posts are only photos of their grandkids, or sometimes their posts are always political. But the word post is just meaning that it's some type of content. Okay, so this is very interesting though. Instead of typing your post or putting a photo up, you are recording voice messages. The app then transcribes these messages into text so that they can be both heard and read. Now, if you're transcribing something, it means that you're putting it into printed or written form.
That's right. You could say, I really like to transcribe my ideas before I forget them. I like to write them down. So the app will transcribe it for you. People can hear it and read it, which is kind of fun. How is this described in our article?
It's a mix between a podcast and an X feed. So X is formerly Twitter, of course. Now we also see another word here that's specific to social media. That is the word feed.
Okay, we see the word feed, and the feed is literally just the way new content is shown. I often think of scrolling through a feed and seeing new posts or new videos or new pictures, right?
That's right, and feed also often goes with the word algorithm. Algorithm is just the way the computer knows what kind of content to give to you based on your preferences and the things that you've liked or interacted with in the past. So, for example, my Instagram feed is mostly full of pictures of food and places to visit because that's the kind of content that I consume on Instagram. I often look at pictures of food or travel, so my feed is full of food and travel photos.
Yeah, I have a lot of sports on my feed. It kind of makes me think like, oh no, this computer is feeding me content. But one of the things that is fed here is a podcast, right? You should know this word. The definition for a podcast is a digital file made available on the internet, available for download, typically as a series where people can subscribe and automatically receive it. Okay, what that means is a regular show that people online put on. It almost always has audio, but you can sometimes watch it.
That's right. All right, friends, we're not done talking about Airchat, so don't go anywhere. But right now, it is time for us to go to today's Info Cloud.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Info Cloud. Back when I was a student, I was in love with playing team sports. There was no way for anyone to win on their own. We all needed each other.
Team sports are a great way to learn about working together. You're always reminded that there's strength in numbers.
Exactly. We can use that phrase in a couple of different ways. The first is to say that working together with others is better than just working by yourself.
You might think about all the chores you need to finish around the house. Most of the time, they'll be done much faster if other people join you.
Each person can do a different task, and you'll be done before you know it. There is strength in numbers. The numbers here is the larger number of people working.
How else can we use this phrase, Garrett?
Well, most of the time we use it in contrast to one big or powerful thing. Think about a boxing fight. If you're going up against one really big guy, you're probably going to lose.
Oh, but if other people are competing against him with you, you might have a chance. There's strength in numbers.
Right. Sometimes you can't do something all by yourself. You need the help of others. There's strength in numbers.
我们都知道团队合作的重要性。今天要跟大家介绍的用语是 strength in numbers， 字面上是数字有力量。Strength in numbers 通常是形容人多好办事，与其一个人单打独斗，不如找一群人共同打拼，互相帮助。例如 My friends are helping me move because there's strength in numbers。我的朋友们来帮我搬家，因为人多好办事。很多人共同做一件事情，也能够建立美好的人际关系。 这就是今天的 InfoCloud，我们下次云端见。
Airchat. Many think that Airchat's decision to ditch the text-first messaging model feels fresh. Hearing the natural tone of someone's voice when they post feels more personal. It could also reduce misunderstandings, since you can hear the emotion in people's voices. What's more, the app offers an autoplay feature, allowing you to listen when you're out and about. Right now, Airchat is an invite-only app. On a practical level, this makes the app easier to manage because the user base is limited. But it's also a marketing technique that fuels interest by making a product feel special.
"接着来看 ditch 这个动词，意思是抛弃。譬如 The successful businessman finally ditched the fast-paced life of the city and moved to a small town in the country. 这位成功的商人最终放弃了城市快节奏的生活，搬到了乡下的一个小镇。或是 Bored with the movie, Charlie and his friends decided to ditch it and grab some pizza instead. Charlie 和朋友们觉得这部电影很无聊，决定放弃去吃披萨。Ditch 如果当名词是沟渠的意思，譬如 To prevent flooding, the townspeople dug a deep ditch around the low-lying areas near the river. 为了防止水灾，镇民们在河边低洼地带挖了一条深沟。最后来看 fuel 这个动词，它是指为什么加上燃料，譬如 Coffee fueled the study session, keeping the students awake as they studied for the challenging exam. 咖啡为自习课提供了能量，让学生们在准备充满挑战的考试时保持清醒。或是 The campfire burned brightly, fueled by dry weeds and tree branches. 萤火在干燥的杂草和树枝的助燃下烧得很旺。Fuel 如果当名词，则指燃料，譬如 The rising cost of fuel is a major concern for many countries, forcing them to look for other sources of energy. 燃料成本上涨是许多国家主要担忧的问题，迫使他们寻找其他能源。
How are people responding to Airchat? We read here, many think that Airchat's decision to ditch the text-first messaging model feels fresh. Okay, so the idea here is that if something feels fresh, it feels new. It feels like no one has done this before. So there are a lot of people who see Airchat, they think of Airchat, and they're like, oh, this is something new. This is something different.
Yeah, that word fresh, we'll see that in fashion sometimes. People say, oh, you're looking fresh. It means you look stylish and clean. You look good. So this also feels fresh. That's it's a good way to describe it. And why? Well, we read, hearing the natural tone of someone's voice when they post feels more personal. And it can also have another benefit that we read about, right?
That's right. We read here it could also reduce misunderstandings since you can hear the emotion in people's voices.
Yeah.
John, has this ever happened to you before? You get a text from someone and you think everything's fine and you're texting back and forth, but then when you see them in person next, there's a little bit of a distance there. It's happened to me where I've realized, oh, I think I really misinterpreted that text conversation.
Well, I especially feel scared when I get like a one-word text, you know.
It's so scary.
Yeah, you share an idea on a text and someone says, great, and they don't put an exclamation mark, they don't put a period, so you're like, great? What does that mean?
Okay, but what if somebody puts okay with a period after it?
Ooh, the period after kind of means like,
it's like final.
Yeah, they're not excited to talk. Who knows? But there's a thing we do with texts called reading too much into it. And it means your fear is putting another idea on top of what you're reading.
Exactly. It's really hard to have misunderstandings over text because you don't know what the person meant when they texted that. Maybe they didn't mean anything strange at all. In fact, a lot of times it's just because of someone's generation that they text in a different way, or maybe even their culture as well. But this is what Airchat's purpose is. We're trying to get rid of those misunderstandings because you can hear people's voices. What's more, the app offers an autoplay feature. Let's talk about that phrase, what's more.
Okay, this is an idiom, and you use it to add something interesting to what you've already said. So you could say, I really thought the restaurant was great, and what's more, there's a place for my kids to play in the restaurant.
Here's another example. The cake was awesome. What's more, she made it herself. But we also see another word here in this sentence, friends, and that is the word autoplay. So autoplay can be used in a lot of different ways, or with a lot of different things, I should say. If there's an autoplay function, it means that a video or an audio file can play automatically by itself. You don't have to push a button or click something to make that video play.
Yeah, sometimes I see this word autoplay with a list of songs. You put them on autoplay and they just automatically go ahead and play the next song. So this app has some interesting features, but right now Airchat is an invite-only app. What's an invite-only app?
It means it's open only to people who have been asked to be a part of it. Invite only.
I see. So maybe people that are famous or have followers. We'll see if we get an invite. But on a practical level, this makes the app easier to manage because the user base is limited. Okay, practical means the way things are actually used and very functional.
That's right. So here's an example of how you could use practical in a sentence. Those shoes are cute, but they're not very practical. I say this a lot about shoes that look uncomfortable or about high heels. They might be nice shoes, but in everyday life, they're not very functional. But we read here, the user base is limited. However, it's also a marketing technique that fuels interest by making a product feel special.
Ooh, I see. So it's creating demand. People want to be on the app. What do you think? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, that's right, friends. All right, but before we do that, let's do something fun. It's time for today's fun fact.
Hello, fact friends. I'm Detective Ernest Finder, and I have a fun fact for you today. Did you know that in 2023, scientists in Africa found that animals are scared of human voices? Huh, that's right. It turns out that animals are more afraid of human voices than lion noises. Wow, so you are pretty scary. And that is today's fun fact.
All right, friends, we've got a great talk about it question for you today. With so many social media apps already available, do you think we need more? Why or why not?
Well, every time I hear the word need, I think, no, we don't need it. We need food and clothes and to be content. But a better social media app is a great idea, and I'm glad people are working hard on it.
I agree with you. The word need is very strong. But as somebody who has left social media apps in the past, when they start to be used for purposes other than just social interaction, I would say yes. I actually do like it when there's something new available. Because, for example, I got off of Facebook because it got too political. I don't want to see political things on social media. I was able to leave that and go to something else. So I do think it's nice to have options.
It is nice to have options that work for you. Well, friends, we want to talk about that with you. Let us know what you think.
We'll see you next time right here on Studio Classroom.
Bye-bye.
I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.